All right, so this is exactly what everybody has been waiting for. Now, when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, before we jump into the story we're about to unpack, yesterday happened to be his birthday. So shout out to the man many fans still consider the greatest rapper in the game as he celebrates another year and somehow keeps leveling up. At 39, he's still dominating conversations and proving that greatness doesn't fade, it evolves. So make sure you hit that like button for the birthday legend. One like equals one birthday wish, and if you really want to show love, double it up and maybe send a little extra bad luck toward Drake's side of the universe while you're at it. You already know both hip-hop and Kendrick could use that kind of energy right now, because what we're discussing today is equal parts exciting and downright strange. And trust me, the good news comes first. The reports surrounding a brand new Kendrick Lamar album are getting louder, bigger, and impossible to ignore. Every day it feels like the buzz grows stronger. And when that happens, it usually points to one thing and one thing only. Something major is clearly moving behind the scenes, and the king of rap might be preparing another big moment. But as much as I wanted to focus only on the positive side of this story, it's finally time to address the other part too. So who exactly started spreading information connected to this latest wave of album rumors? Well, none other than the self-appointed gatekeeper himself, DJ Akademiks. And I'll be honest, after spending enough time listening to Big Ak's takes, it feels like every visit comes with a side order of chaos. By the time you're hearing this, I'm probably enjoying a celebration somewhere, surrounded by real hip-hop culture and hoping to hear a few classic records along the way. Because whatever version of hip-hop Akademiks has been serving lately, it's becoming harder and harder to sit through. Still, stick with me because what we're about to look at actually matters. So there's no point dragging this out any longer. Let's open the door and see what's inside. I mean, Akademiks. Yep, we're gonna let Akademiks do the talking.
The diss album to come back, he might be reworking it. I heard he was working on some stuff. He might be reworking it. Now, I don't know the real contents of it, but I was thinking if he's going to drop something, he's going to drop a diss album to Drake. You know? Wait, hold on. Y'all forgetting about Not Like Us? Hold on. I got a whole album with these. Hold on now. Hold on. It's time to Crip walk back again. What y'all doing? What y'all... Yo, hey. You better get back up on stage and twerk with that dictionary. Come on, let's get to it. So, I was expecting that. Maybe he's reworking it. It'd be good if we could get some squabble ups mixed with some be humble, sit down, and some Luther. Looks like a good mix of Kendrick if he does.
All right, that's enough of that. You've heard the main point already. We don't need to sit through another long-winded rant. No reason to waste any more time on it. The message is pretty clear. And honestly, that's the kind of narrative DJ Akademiks has been pushing lately. Now, to be fair, there is one positive takeaway buried in all of this. The good news is that Akademiks appears to be hearing the same whispers that many other sources have been hearing, that Kendrick Lamar is actively working, preparing, and getting ready to make his next move. But then comes the part where reality starts getting mixed with speculation. This is where the fan fiction kicks in. And this is where the conversation starts sounding more like something designed to benefit Drake than anything based on actual evidence, because Akademiks is claiming the project will be a full-blown diss album. Kind of funny, considering some people are treating Drake's latest release like it's some untouchable masterpiece. Let's be honest for a second and recognize what's really happening here. There seems to be a coordinated effort to reduce Kendrick Lamar's entire identity down to being the not like us guy. Akademiks keeps repeating the idea that Kendrick is just going to keep making records in that same lane, even though everyone knows the beef happened years ago, and Kendrick already has an entire catalog filled with successful music that has nothing to do with that situation. But despite that obvious reality, once Akademiks threw the idea out there, plenty of Drake's supporters immediately grabbed onto it and started pushing it as the newest narrative. And sure, I could spend an entire segment explaining why Kendrick's next album will probably come completely out of nowhere and surprise everybody in ways no one expects. In fact, history suggests he'll likely go in the exact opposite direction from whatever people are predicting right now. But honestly, that's not even the most important part of this discussion. Because after watching this clip and countless others just like it, clips that aren't even worth wasting our time dissecting one by one, I started noticing a bigger pattern. At some point, I'll probably compile a full collection showing exactly how portions of the Drake community have been helping amplify these talking points, because this clip is only a small glimpse into a much larger trend. What it really highlights is something much bigger than album rumors. Even with growing expectations that Kendrick's next project is on the way, somehow the conversation immediately gets twisted into claims that it's a diss album or that he's panicking over artists like Ice Spice. And unfortunately, when personalities like Akademiks are determined to shape public perception, every Kendrick-related story gets filtered through that same lens. The people dominating these conversations continue controlling the attention economy. Meanwhile, figures in hip-hop media who once offered meaningful analysis, like Joe Budden, seem more interested in strange side conversations than discussing the music itself. Instead, the focus shifts toward random controversies, awkward observations, and topics that barely connect to what fans actually care about. There are definitely conversations worth having about that trend, but that's probably a discussion for another video entirely. We simply don't have enough time to unpack all of that right now. The bigger issue is that much of today's media environment has turned into a contest over who can generate the loudest reaction. And that mentality has spread everywhere, from media personalities chasing clicks to artists building narratives around claims that don't always match reality. When you step back and look at everything together, a clear pattern starts to emerge. Ever since mid-May, there has been a larger game unfolding in plain sight, whether people realize they were participating in it or not. And what exactly is that game? It certainly doesn't resemble Kendrick's usual approach of releasing the music, stepping aside, and letting the work speak for itself. Instead, the strategy has become the complete opposite. Speak for the music before it arrives, assign it a narrative before it exists, and create a story around it that may never have been there in the first place. And honestly, that's the entire point. A huge part of this entire strategy has been trying to elevate Drake into something larger than reality. You've probably seen it yourself, those endless debates where hardcore Drake supporters talk about him like he's some once-in-a-generation philosopher, while pointing to the most ordinary bars imaginable as proof of lyrical genius. I'll leave that discussion there because that's a rabbit hole all by itself. But the real objective behind all of it isn't just praising Drake. It's turning Kendrick Lamar into the exact opposite of what most people know him to be. Instead of acknowledging him as one of the most creative, fearless, and respected artists in modern hip-hop, the narrative becomes that he's a fraud, a puppet, somehow undeserving of his success. That's the story they continue pushing. They've even convinced themselves that Kendrick has disappeared because he's supposedly worried about Drake's latest moves. According to this version of events, he's locked away somewhere, scrambling to revise a diss album and desperately trying to recreate the impact of Not Like Us. Come on, at some point you have to let that idea go and move on. The amount of mental gymnastics required to believe this stuff deserves its own research paper. Sometimes I genuinely feel like there's a case study waiting to be written about the obsession certain corners of rap culture have developed. Because we've reached a point where it's no longer just passionate fandom. It's become one of the strangest dynamics in hip-hop discourse. Honestly, some of the behavior makes other notoriously dedicated fan bases look reasonable by comparison. And that's exactly why this matters. When you look at the lengths people go to in order to elevate Drake while simultaneously tearing down Kendrick, you start seeing where all of this ultimately leads. Every day, the timeline is flooded with someone loudly trying to convince the world that Drake has completely changed the game, while Kendrick is somehow the problem. The messaging is always the same. Kendrick is fake. Drake saved rap. Drake is the hero. Kendrick is overrated. That's the entire argument packaged in different forms over and over again. But here's what stands out to me. Many of the same voices, led by figures like DJ Akademiks, have dozens of fresh songs and an entire new project to discuss, yet somehow the conversation keeps circling back to Kendrick Lamar. Think about that for a second. If your favorite artist just delivered his biggest moment in years, why are you spending more time discussing someone else? In trying to prove how great Drake is, they've accidentally exposed something else entirely. They've revealed just how dependent the conversation has become on Kendrick's presence. It's almost like they need Kendrick in the discussion to validate every point they're trying to make. Now, to be fair, let's talk about the music itself. A lot of people act like criticism means you can't acknowledge what's working, but that's not how I look at it. I'll say it directly. Iceman is a solid project. In fact, it's arguably one of the strongest efforts Drake has delivered in quite some time. The momentum from the battle, the story surrounding the release, and the renewed focus on his craft all make it more interesting than many albums currently competing in the same space. You can hear a level of effort and engagement that fans have been asking for. That's a major reason why the numbers have been as strong as they've been. The publicity machine certainly hasn't hurt either. But even after giving credit where it's due, my larger point remains unchanged. The reason people keep discussing this album isn't only because of the music, it's also because of the larger narrative surrounding Drake and Kendrick, a narrative that continues driving engagement from every direction. And that leads me to what I believe is Drake's ceiling in this era. The reaction to this project has unintentionally proven something. Drake can release great music, he can dominate headlines, he can put up impressive numbers, he can remind everyone why he's been one of the biggest names in music for over a decade. But no matter how successful the rollout becomes, there seems to be a limit. If Drake released the biggest album imaginable tomorrow, people would still immediately compare it to Kendrick. Not necessarily because Kendrick is more popular, or because one artist is automatically better than the other. The reason is simpler than that. Kendrick has become the measuring stick. Whether fans like it or not, every major Drake conversation eventually finds its way back to Kendrick Lamar. That's the reality we've been watching unfold. What's even more fascinating is that many of Drake's loudest defenders have unknowingly reinforced that reality themselves. They can't celebrate their favorite artist for more than 5 minutes before shifting the discussion back to Kendrick. They can't analyze a new release without bringing him up. They can't enjoy the moment without referencing him. In trying to diminish Kendrick's influence, they've only highlighted how central he remains to the entire conversation. The more energy spent attacking him, the more obvious his impact becomes. That's why these endless campaigns and narratives end up producing the opposite effect. They don't erase Kendrick's relevance, they reinforce it. They remind everyone how much attention his name still commands years after major moments like GNX and the battle records. And getting back to Akademiks' original claim about Kendrick's next album, here's the funny part. Whether Kendrick releases another conceptual masterpiece, a deeply personal project, or even a record full of aggressive responses, the reaction is probably going to be the same. People are going to overanalyze every lyric, every line, every interview, and every move. The same people claiming they don't care will suddenly become the most invested audience in the world. That's why I don't put much stock into these rumors. What matters is the fact that multiple sources continue suggesting Kendrick is working and preparing something significant. That's the headline worth paying attention to. Everything else feels like noise designed to fill the gap until the music actually arrives. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about the latest reports surrounding a new Kendrick Lamar project? What do you make of Akademiks' comments and the narratives being pushed online? Do you think Kendrick's next release will address any of these conversations, or do you expect him to move in a completely different direction? Drop your thoughts down below because I want to read every perspective. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.